Happy blessed new year, everyone. How have you all been? Welcome back again to the channel. I pray and believe that you all have been doing well, and we bless the name of the Lord for a new year. I believe that this new year, God has something special in store for you. God has great plans for you. Welcome once again. So today I'm going to share a testimony. This is something that I personally went through in 2019 all the way to 2021. Because when you read the book of Revelations, chapter 12, verse 11, it says, "And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony." There are some battles that we win by testifying. There are some situations that we go through that we get that victory that we are seeking for when we testify. So I'm going to read from the book of Mark, chapter 5, verse 25 to 30, and you can open with me. And it reads, "And a certain woman which had an issue of blood 12 years, and had suffered many things of many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and was nothing bettered, but rather grew worse, when she had heard of Jesus, came in the press, and touched his garment. For she said, If I may touch but his clothes, I shall be whole. And straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of that plague. And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned him about in the press and said, Who touched my clothes?" A few days back, I had a revelation while I was sleeping, and in this dream, I was in a hospital with my mom. And while we were there, she had to go out and buy food for me. So as she was out, I was still there. I noticed another patient that was in a different room, a guy. He was with his mom. So the mom came and started having a conversation with me. And while we were talking, I found out that her son had back surgery. So I went ahead and asked the mom, which part of the back did this guy have, did they perform the surgery? And the mom said it was the thoracic spine. And when I heard this, I told the mom that, wow, I actually had a similar surgery, and I was okay. So when the mom heard me say that, she felt encouraged because she saw someone that went through what her son was going through, and that the person was actually okay. That really encouraged her, and it made her know that everything was going to be fine, that her son was going to recover and go back to living his normal life. I remember in 2019, this was before COVID, it was around October, I started feeling very sick, and I decided to go to the hospital. At first, I didn't, honestly, because I thought, sometimes when you get sick and this is just normal, this will go away. But then I realized that, okay, this is not going away, so I went to the hospital. And when I got there, they did their tests, and they found out that I was very sick, and they had to admit me. So at that time, of course, it was very shocking because I was not I didn't know that I was that sick. In fact, when the doctor was examining me, he was shocked. He himself was scared for me. And he started telling me not to worry. They had to take me to the emergency room to monitor me. My school was immediately notified. I don't even know how my father found out, but I think he found out from my friend because I couldn't go there by myself. I had to go with someone. I was very weak. I lost a lot of weight. So while we were there, they started processing everything to take me to the hospital. I had to tell my fiance, I told him that I'm sick and I have to be admitted. And the first thing that he texted me, I remember he said, God is still good. And to be honest, at that time, I got so angry because if God is good, why would He let me go through that? Why would He let me get sick from the first place? That was what I was thinking. I didn't even want to reply to that message. I didn't even want to mention and say the word God because it was just, everything was just too shocking to me at that time. So I went to the hospital. I stayed there. I remember I stayed there for like 3 whole weeks. I couldn't attend class. My friends were taking care of me. I kept losing so much weight. And while I was there, the doctors found out that my spine was actually affected. That there were some segments of my spine that were very weak, and they told me that I'm not supposed to get up. I'm just supposed to stay on the bed. If I make any wrong movement, then I will completely be paralyzed. That's what they told me. It was a very scary situation. In fact, my school at that time decided to tell me that, okay, at least your parents should be here. So my mom had to fly all the way from our home to come just to take care of me. It was quite scary. The people that saw me at that time, even when they sit now, I know someone that if she sits down and narrates the story, she will get emotional. Every time she talks about it, she just gets emotional and teary because it was everyone that came to see me at the hospital bed. They were just pitying me. They were just, they felt sorry for me. And the devil actually tried to kill me. Even when I was going through that, the devil always takes advantages of situations that are not good. He makes it worse. But I thank God for the people that were in my life at that time, the people that stood by me, the people that prayed for me. I couldn't pray for myself. They prayed for me, they prayed with me, and I didn't die before my time. So long story short, I had my surgery. They had to transfer me from one hospital to another. This entire time I was still on the bed. After I had my surgery, they had to take me back to the first hospital, and I stayed there for like 3 weeks. This entire time I was just on the bed. When I finally got discharged, the recovery process was very painful. You know, when you have a baby and when the baby starts walking, the baby doesn't cry because walking is not supposed to be painful. Standing up is not supposed to be painful. Just sitting up is not supposed to be painful. But because I was on the bed for so long, my muscles literally atrophied, and it's like I was starting to walk again. Just to put my feet on the floor was very painful. But throughout the entire experience, I still remember that God was with me. God still showed Himself during that time to remind me that I'm still with you and you're going to come out of this strong, that you're not going to look like what you went through. Because my spine was affected, they had to put some metals in me that would help stabilize my spine as I was healing. So I also had to have a second surgery in 2021. And by God's grace, the recovery was very well. It was just God's grace. Why am I sharing this story today? When you read the story of this woman, she was bleeding for 12 years. Just that by its own, it can be very frustrating. Every time I meet a patient that is frustrated, I understand how that feels. I can relate to that feeling. This woman was bleeding for 12 years. The only thing she wanted was to get healed. She was not looking for publicity. In fact, I don't think she even wanted to have a chit chat with anyone after going through that for 12 whole years. She just told herself, if I just touch his garment, I know I will be made whole. She touched the garment of Jesus and the blood completely stopped. But what did Jesus do? Jesus turned around and said, who touched me? Jesus was 100% God. He knew who touched him. But there was a reason to why he asked that question. He wanted that woman to come out and share her story because he knew that there were people that did not believe that there is a God that can heal. He knew that that story will be needed for you and me today to be encouraged and to know that there is a God that is a healer. He said, who touched me? That woman had to come out. That woman, with all the embarrassment, she went to different doctors. The situation just grew worse. She spent so much money. And probably at that time, there was a stigma that was put on her because she was bleeding for 12 years. But she had to come out because that story, that is why we are reading this story today. People of God, there is power in your testimony. Every time God does something good to you or for you, do not stay silent. Do not keep quiet. In fact, there are some battles that we win by testifying. There are some battles that we will only overcome when we open up our mouth and say to people that God has been good to me. And the problem is we don't know which one. If we knew which battle we will win when we testify, then that would be so easy. We don't know. We don't know that. There are so many instances in the Bible when Jesus was here. Every time he healed someone, every time he helped someone, he told the person, go and show yourself to the priest. Go and show yourself to the priest. The people that received miracles during the time of Jesus did not stay silent. And what happened? Many people got to know that there is a man in town called Jesus. Jesus was not able to go everywhere because he was still a human being. But through those testimonies, many people got to find out that there is a man called Jesus that is doing all these miracles. There are battles that we only win when we testify. We are in a new year. God has been good to you. The fact that you are here today, the fact that you are even in 2023, that is a testimony on its own. Do you know how many people die every second of the day? This COVID alone has killed so many people. But you and I are here today. Why don't we testify? Why don't you open up your mouth and tell people and tell your family members? There are people in your family that don't even believe in Jesus. But when you open up your mouth and you share your story, because of that, they will change their mind. And there are some battles that you're going through that God has already provided the miracle. The only thing you need to do today is to testify. The only thing you need to do is to open up your mouth and share the good news and share what God has done for you. I encourage you to share your testimony today. Share it with your family, share it with your friends, share it with the people that still think that Jesus is not real, that there's no God. Share it with them. Tell them that there was a time I went through this, and this is what God did for me. When you go through challenges in the future, every time you go through an obstacle, every time there's a mountain ahead of you, when you remember those testimonies, they encourage you, they push you, they remind you that God is still good. If God helped you during that time, then He will definitely help you now. If God saw you through, if you are able to go through that mountain, then this mountain, you will go through it. Because God is with you. I encourage you today to share your testimony. When you go to church, when you have the chance, share it. Tell people of how good God is. Because that on its own is giving God glory. That on its own is encouraging someone today. Feel free to share your testimonies down below in the comment section. And if you have any questions, feel free to write us on the email that will be displayed below. God bless you so much. See you next time. Goodbye.